Mike's Daily Podcast.
1439, Hello, it's Mike Matthews broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Castro Valley, at the last place on earth. Today, we hear from Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer, and when I have a little extra time to help me prepare for doing this podcast, I feel like I'm not as rushed.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Most days I just got to get right into it. Got to get right in, get it out of the way super quick because I got other duties that I have to do.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
But I first wanted to sing about the Castro Valley Fall Festival. It's going on right now, and yesterday I had a ball. I probably had the best time I've ever had at that thing because of all my friends. They showed up, and we even saw some pretenders. The Fake Pretenders band performed.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
The tribute to the Pretenders performed, and that was awesome. They did a great rendition of Ohio.
Mike's
I went to Ohio.
Daily.
That used to be the
Podcast
theme music for the fat idiot known as Rush Limbaugh. And in fact, he left Florida. He got the hell out of Florida because he's a scaredy pants. He's a jerk. Hey, that got me back my liberal rating on my podcast today. Yay, so good. Look who just walked in.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, the Jeff Supervisor. Oh my God, I really hate hurricanes.
Yeah, they don't look good. Lots of wind. And I talked to my mom yesterday. Look who else walked in. And she said that she was not as stressed out because she found out that the scary hurricane, was moving west of her. So one wouldn't be as bad.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Speaking of Florida, this is a picture. It's a couple miles away from where my mom lives. It's this beach down, I think they call it Ponce Inlet. And there was this beautiful crane that flew right in front of me just as I had my camera out. This was 2 years ago when I was in Florida. And I snapped this picture of this crane. And so I'm thinking of clearer skies and better days ahead in Florida. They shall return. It's bleak right now, but it'll get better. But Castro Valley Mont was a lot of fun. One of the strangest parts of the day was Basil the boxer got to be in a little in front of Pet Food Express. They've got this like a dog run, like a little dog pen that you can do dog classes, and it's fenced off, and it's got AstroTurf, and you put your dog in there, and you can train your dog. Well, I'm in there with Basil the boxer, and all of a sudden a lady comes along and puts her duck in there, a black duck that had an afro. It had like a little a crest on its head, a foofy feather crest. And it's walking around, and of course I know, having had Basil now for 7.5 years, that he is not, he doesn't really care about ducks. And so she puts the duck down, and I look, and I'm like, yeah, Basil doesn't care. He just walked away. He kind of sniffed for a second, but then walked away. He doesn't care. Geese, on the other hand, he usually throws a fit. And seagulls and crows. And then I think on Friday he was barking at one of those vultures, buzzards, was sitting up in a tree, and he saw it and barked like crazy. But this duck was perfectly fine. And that's one of the crazy things that happened at the Castro Valley Fall Festival. As well, I got to see Haley was there from the Daily Haley, and Becca, Robert of Welsh on the World was there. And this was great. And Sylvia was there, of course. Sylvia, my only podcast listener other than Haley. And I got to talk to her. We had a great conversation. Got to see some of these great shows, little concerts going on around the fair, the Fall Festival. And we heard Robert ask me the following question. So, Mike, how often do you do your podcast? Well, the name of the show is Mike's Daily Podcast. So, yeah, daily. I didn't do one yesterday, but yeah, pretty much daily. And there was, let's see. Oh, I'm walking along. Oh, and I saw someone I produced a show for was there and talked to them. It's so weird when you see people from work outside of a work setting and you're just, oh yeah, this is what you look like outside of work. But we're walking along and this guy comes up to me, this tall old guy comes up and he goes, "Sir, do you know how hot your dog is right now?" And you know, Basil's panting. It was a warm day, but I had a lot of water for him. I had hosed him down. I kept giving him water all day. He was fine. He wasn't like, usually when he gets overheated, he finds shade and he just plops down. But no, he was having a good time, sniffing people petting him, people going, "Oh my God, how old is your dog?" And insinuating when they ask that question that he is ancient and that he can barely move and walk, and he's fine. He's walking around. He's gray. He's graying. So he looks old because he's graying. We all look older as we gray, and that's why some idiots try and color their gray. Women, that's fine. You do it. But men, when we color our graying hair, we look like idiots. I'm looking right at you, members of the band Journey. Neil Sean with his jet black hair, come on. That's impossible. It just looks bad. When rockers try to get away with it, but they still look horrid with their ink black hair. So stupid. So this guy comes up and goes, "Hey, how hot is your dog?" I don't know. "Why don't you buy one of these dog cooling devices for $5? It'll help us out." He was with a veterans group, and I just, you know what? Maybe I would have helped him out in other circumstances, but you yelling at me like that, going, "Sir, no. I will put my money elsewhere, thank you." But that's nice that he called me sir. It made me feel like Elton John, who's a sir, and Richard Branson's a sir, and that's awesome. There was the knight, Lancelot. He was a sir. There was Big Sir, south of us here in Castro Valley. The point being that I didn't like that one lady going, "Oh my God, how old is your dog?" I said, "Oh, he's not old, he's 9. "That's old," she yelled. "You drunk idiot." Okay. So that was part of the fun yesterday in Castro Valley. Gee, when I experience it was Castro Valley actually. When I experience an event like this, it makes my podcast so much easier. It's not like pulling teeth. It's just all this information just is here for me to give to you, to color your world, to be a Chicago song and tell you there was a song that had to do with coloring my world. But there was so much fun had yesterday, and it will last with me forever. And it was the best time I ever had at the Fall Festival in Castro Valley. But something I did not realize until just a little while ago, early this morning, I was flipping through the channels at my TV at work, which I am so glad. Today is my last day at this job in Pleasanton for 3 weeks. I will be gone 3 weeks. Almost a freaking month from this place. And believe me, I am so happy about that. The part-timers that I work with, the youngsters that I work with, oh my God, are they the most helpless little turtles stuck on their backs? I swear, if they try and text me when I'm on my vacation, I will not text back, or I will call back shouting expletives, because I am just getting sick of how helpless they are. And what really pisses me off, and I don't use that word often, but what irks me is the fact that I told them everything and they never write anything down. Millennials are terrible at writing stuff down. And it's like, dude, I'm taking my time to tell you how to do something. You better write it down. And at my other job, a millennial got me up to speed, trained me. And I wrote everything down. In fact, he was laughing at how much I was writing stuff down. I had pages and pages of notes. And yeah, it helped a lot. I went back and referred to stuff. But I'm sick of that with my part-time job. The people that are just, not pulling their weight and are basically coming here and just zoning out, watching TV, doing nothing. And just tired of it. I need a break. So I'm really excited about that, to be gone for the next 3 weeks. But I guess what I wanted to point out was, as I was watching TV at my job, which is cool. You know what? I'm getting my work done. I had it in the background. I'm flipping through the channels. I'm trying to find the Weather Channel. Even though right now they're showing a commercial for track phone. And if you buy a track phone, you're an idiot. There is no point to having a track phone. You are too old and can't handle technology if you have a track phone. All you need is, the world of cell phones. It's so competitive now. And several years ago, when I first got a cell phone, there wasn't like a Cricket Wireless, or what's the other one? The Boomer? Verizon? Boomer Mobile, is that one? Booster Mobile, something like that. There's all these competitors now. And like Cricket Wireless has some cool deals where you sign up and you do like auto pay and they take $5 off. And then through my American Express card, they took off 10% off my credit card bill for about a year. So if it pertained to cell phone bills. So that was an awesome... Hey, this should be the segment.
The Cutting Corners Corner.
The Cutting Corners Corner! Because every once in a while, I discover how to cut corners. It's wonderful. And I just chopped a corner off there. So, track phone, completely useless. Don't buy it. Ridiculous. Oh, how? And not only that, they probably charge you way too much, and then with that money, they put it into buying this ridiculous ad time on cable, and I hear them on AM radio, so there you go. But the point of the whole thing was, I was flipping through the channel, trying to find something to watch, and I found South Park. And I realized that I have not watched South Park in over 10 years. I stopped over 10 years ago, and I remember the moment I stopped watching South Park. I used to watch it every week, and I turned it on one night, and they were talking about dead manatees, which, since I'm going to Florida, I'll be in Florida in a week from this moment. That's the last thing I want to see is dead manatees. But it was just so upsetting to me. Even though it's in the poorest, most crudest cartoon form, which actually that's not true anymore, because since in the past 10 years, their animation has gotten way better because it's gotten so cheap to use the computer-generated, the CGI that they use. They bought this really expensive CGI equipment over 10 years ago, and they used it for these little cut-out crude drawings, because originally it was construction paper that they cut out and that they stop motion animated. And like the first episode, the half-hour episode they had, took them weeks to animate. And then by the time they got all the CGI stuff, animation took them just like hours. It was nothing. And now it's probably even less than that. So anyway, I'm not a fan. Anyway, Anyway, I caught a little bit of an episode of South Park, and I was like, oh, what's going on in this one? And it was the homeless, Night of the Homeless, or the Walking Homeless, making fun of Walking Dead and equating homeless with zombies. And they keep walking around going, instead of we want brains, it was we want change, as in pocket change. And they're doing like experiments on them and stuff, and it's disgusting. And this one doctor, instead of getting caught by the walking homeless, he tries to take his own life by shooting himself in the head, and he misses, and he ends up shooting his whole... It's disgusting. And even though it's crude animation, it's just like, why are you showing me this, South Park? I'm not a fan anymore. It kind of hit a peak with the movie they made. And then again, the guys made that movie, what was it, the American Troops? No. American Force? Something like that, where Kim Jong-il was in that one. And it was all marionettes and puppets. And then anyway. Cafe Anyway.
Anyway.
That's basically all I wanted to get to. But it was a crazy Castro Valley Fall Festival yesterday. Meanwhile, on the Weather Channel, it is nonstop Hurricane Irma coverage. And one of the most amazing things, of course, you can't stop, even though it's just such a cliche now, the guy standing out in the storm. They have like 3 guys out in the storm. And it's all men out in the storm. The women are too smart to do this. But they're like getting, one of the shots, the guy was getting blown sideways, basically. His cord, he didn't have a cordless mic for some reason. The cord was completely horizontal. And the wind pushing him over. He said he was in 72 mile per hour winds. And these winds are getting over 100, up to 135 miles per hour in the eye of the storm. I'm like watching this going, what are you doing? And he actually talked about how he acknowledged that people have concern for him. He was, I know there are people concerned for my safety, but look, we're okay. And he walked over. He was like immediately out of the elements. He was near a parking garage or something. At this huge building was blocking back the wind. So he was safe. But he was, then the cameraman shot up a little ways, and there's a high-rise right there, and this is in Miami, and the wind is coming in and the water, and he said, yeah, people in this high-rise, there are people in this high-rise. They're weathering out this storm, and, there's several floors up, but it's crazy what's going on there right now. Okay, that's all I wanted to get to, the world in a nutshell here on the daily podcast known as Mike's Daily Podcast. And you can help out the show through the Amazon link. Click on that and buy whatever it is you're going to buy. And you'll get a special thank you from me. And if you want to help us out through the PayPal, you'll get a special MP3 for thee from all the podcast, Mike's Daily Podcast players and the Cafe Anyway characters, including these guys who walked in. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman! And this is John Deere, the engineer. We're glad not to be in a hurricane right now. Yeah, we're not. So, in a couple of days, this hurricane will be done. Hopefully. All the models suggest that it will be in a few days. So, and there's some beautiful models that are talking about it. And they're like, Mike, we know all about hurricanes because we're not only beautiful, but we're smart. And we study weather, and we're meteorologists.
Mike Matthews, where are these models of which you speak?
They're here at Cafe Anyway. They're right over there.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty.
Not as pretty as you, Chely.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com to see all the past podcast pictures and whatnot. All right, let's get to the segment called...
Mike's Matthewsment Park.
The front panel will close automatically. Please remain seated at all times.
Oh, it's a crazy ride of news. Let's get through. First off, with Senator John McCain. What a career in politics. What an interesting guy. I did not vote for him when he ran for president, but, I always liked him. From the moment I saw him on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Oh, he was funny on that show. He always was very good. But he addressed his cancer prognosis today on State of the Union, presenting a optimistic view in his first national interview since receiving his diagnosis. He says, I'm fine. He talked to Jake Tapper on the show. The prognosis is pretty good. Look, this is a very vicious form of cancer that I'm facing, but all the results so far are excellent. He was diagnosed with brain cancer in July. He is, of course, the Republican senator from Arizona, and he acknowledged the severity of the illness, but said it was the latest test in a lifetime of tough fights. I'm facing a challenge, but I have faced other challenges, he said, and I'm very confident about getting through this one as well. When he returned to Washington as the Senate came back from its August recess last week, he said he planned to focus in the coming weeks on a key defense bill with a magnetic resonance imaging test planned for Monday. And that guy has some serious resolve right now in what he wants to do. Celebrities who regret their plastic surgery and other aesthetic procedures. Yeah. Not a good idea. We've talked about that. I don't know why I just mentioned that, but that was on this website. Thank you. I love clickbait. I will not click on you, clickbait. But oh, you are so tempting. Back to the storm. The storm surge is called dangerous and life-threatening, but what exactly is it? This story coming from Miami and the Associated Press. It's not a wall of water or tsunami. Simply put, hurricane winds push water towards shore. It can happen quickly and far from a storm center, inundating areas that don't typically flood. Storm surge doesn't come from the ocean. It can come from sounds, bays, and lakes, sometimes well inland. Large hurricanes tend to create a greater storm surge over a broader area, and coastal features such as bays can act like funnels and back up water into rivers and canals. Forecasters say it kills more people than the strong winds. And Governor Rick Scott of Florida said it will cover your house. The National Hurricane Center forecasts water levels up to 15 feet above ground for the Florida Keys and parts of the state's Gulf Coast, along with up to 25 inches of rain in the Keys. The flooding threat extended far beyond the path of Irma's eye. The Atlantic coast from Miami to Isle of Palm, South Carolina, could see up to 6 feet of storm surge, and that is of concern for my mom that lives in Daytona Beach. About 1,000 miles of coastline could see storm surge. Much of that landscape lies less than 10 feet above sea level, and the surge from Irma could be a few inches higher in some areas. Much of Florida's southwest coast is uninhabited swampland, including a large section of Everglades National Park. The Everglades won't stop the potential flooding to inhabited areas. North of the Everglades lies Naples, an upscale town of 22,000 that is also the home of the Florida governor. One of the interesting things they were talking about on the Weather Channel was how some places along the coast right now, the water level is dropping. And that is because the wind in that particular part of the hurricane is blowing the water away from the land. The big concern with that is when that water comes back, it's going to be much higher and create a storm surge that way as well. A quarter of Florida's population, 6.4 million people, were warned to evacuate low-lying areas. Here's a bizarre part of the hurricane that I don't know if you've heard yet. Some people who respond to, some people who responded to this are idiots or who actually took part in this. But Florida police have warned people, do not fire your gun at Hurricane Irma. There was a Facebook event created by a young punk with snot flowing out of his nose named Ryan Edwards, 22, stupid millennial. He created this Facebook page, and he had not expected anyone to take the event seriously. He says, it was a combination of stress and boredom that made me start the event. The response is a complete and total surprise to me. I never envisioned this event becoming some kind of crazy idea larger than myself. It has become something a little out of control, he said. So, to clarify, do not shoot weapons at Irma. You won't make it turn around, and it will have very dangerous side effects, said the sheriff of Pasco. The Facebook event has over 50,000 people that have expressed interest in taking part, saying, let's show Irma that we shoot first. Some who responded appeared to take the event seriously, posting pictures of themselves with what appeared to be firearms. For others, though, the event was tongue-in-cheek, with a graphic circulated by members showing bullets twisting around in the force of the storm. "Bullets come back, don't shoot," read the text on the graphic. What the heck? But I guess what do you expect when you've got Florida that has you can carry firearms, a thing, and the whole, remember Trayvon Martin deal? And yeah, carry. What is it? You can carry, it's a carry state. That's right. Well, having moved on from its path of destruction in the Caribbean and, bearing down on Florida, Floridians boarding up their windows in preparation. Now, here's something after the hurricane. Sunday morning, it's, making landfall now here. And tomorrow, and after the hurricane moves on, is what I'm trying to say, dozens of unmanned aerial vehicles might be in service. They were deployed in Houston in response to Hurricane Harvey. And unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, are expected to be out in full force across Florida in the upcoming days. Experts say UAVs will likely play an even bigger role in relief efforts when future storms or earthquakes hit. Drones can perform critical tasks as disasters unfold, including spotting people in need of urgent help. Evidence suggests drones may have certain advantages over traditional search and rescue efforts, including speed. In preliminary research conducted in Europe last year, drones found isolated people much faster than did traditional ground-based rescue teams. And they can also deliver rescue ropes and life jackets in areas that are too dangerous for ground-based rescuers to venture into. Drones are also providing help in the aftermath of disasters. One example is to access damage to buildings, roads, bridges, and power lines. Among the groups that put drones over Houston in Harvey's wake, one was led by Texas A&M University, part of the university's Center for Robot Assisted Search and Rescue. They flew 119 UAV missions over Houston using a range of drones from small quadcopters, like the ones popular with hobbyists, the little quadcopter. It reminds me of the little model helicopter we used to have, the one that was tied to a little wire and you'd fly it around. There was one that Basil almost attacked in San Leandro a couple months ago. It's crazy. So, and then others are military-grade in situ scan Eagle, is what it's called, an unmanned plane that launches from a catapult. Mike Nguyen, CEO of the San Francisco-based drone mapping and analytic company Drone Deploy, said drones operated by the nonprofit organization Humanitarian Drones had used his company's software to create detailed maps to help emergency management agencies assess the storm damage in Houston. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Castro Valley. All right, well, that's pretty much the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. This will be the last time I use this microphone at this particular location, Castro Valley 10, for 3 weeks. I'm so excited. Oh, so excited. 3 weeks from today, hopefully we'll be right back here doing another podcast. But we will be doing a podcast tomorrow and all the way up through Friday. That's the plan anyway. And then I won't be doing podcasts for over a week. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, so my daily podcast will be taking a break, like Robert was insinuating. But we'll be back, hopefully, if it's in the cards, if all goes according to plan. If God smiles on me, I'll be back doing the podcast again once my trip is over and my vacation, much needed vacay is over with. But I right now have to vacate this area. And thank you for listening to this show. MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. And here's Ariel, who actually I'm going to be visiting her parents as part of my vacation. This should be fun. I haven't talked to them, seen them in person in a while. So let's end the show. Thank you so much for listening to the show called Mike's Daily Podcast.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!